everybody, and welcome to our collective worship today. We're going to start this morning as we usually do by lighting our candle. So here we go. Jesus is the light of the world, a light no darkness can quench. Now this morning we're going to think about how we're progressing through the Old Testament. And we're going to move on from when the kings were the leaders now instead of the judges. At this time, God needed someone to help him. And God had some special people called prophets who helped him to spread the word, to send messages. And today we're going to listen to a story about one of those special prophets. His name was Samuel. Now that God's people were living in their own land, there were so many things he wanted to tell them. How to be happy, how to take care of each other, how to protect themselves from their enemies. So God decided to choose someone to speak for him, someone he could talk to, who would then go and talk to the people, someone called a prophet. God looked and looked all over the land of Israel, eager to pick just the right person. And finally he found him in the house of Eli, the priest. And it was a little boy. "Samuel," God called one night. "Samuel, I want to talk to you." Samuel sat up and rubbed his sleepy eyes. He'd never heard God's voice before, and he thought that old Eli was calling him. Samuel stumbled into Eli's room to see what he wanted, but Eli just shooed him back to bed. "Samuel," God called again. "Samuel, listen." Samuel was confused this time, and a little scared, so he crept back into Eli's room. "I told you, boy, you're the old priest. I didn't call you. Now off to bed." Samuel didn't know what to think as he crawled under his covers. But when God called, "Samuel, Samuel," for the third time, he knew what to do. He dashed back to Eli just as fast as he could. "Samuel," sighed Eli, "if either of us is going to get any sleep tonight, we need to find out who's calling you. And I have an idea. So the next time you hear that voice, I don't want you to come running in here. Instead, I want you to say, 'Speak, Lord,' and I will listen." Samuel's eyes opened wide. "You mean it's God who's calling me?" "Do as I tell you," said Eli, "and we'll find out." So Samuel went back to bed. God called his name again. And this time Samuel stayed there and listened to God. And his eyes opened wide with wonder. And from that moment, Samuel was listening. And until Samuel was an old man, he would listen to God. God talked to Samuel, giving him messages to pass on to the people. And just like the first time, God's message never failed to leave him wide-eyed and in wonder. So, have you heard that story before? Some of you might have done. I wonder if you have had to be like Samuel. Have you ever had to pass on a special message? It may not have been from God. It may have been from one of your parents or one of your teachers. But did it make you feel special? Did it make you feel important that you had that message to go and give to someone else? I think lots of us have felt important when we've had to pass on a message. So we need to take these things very seriously, and they're very important at different times in our lives. But what is also important is to listen. Listening. It's not always easy. I want you to think about that. Could you be quiet for 2 minutes and listen? I don't think we spend enough time when it's quiet to listen. There's always something going on. There's televisions on, the radio, the computer, people chattering. But I think over the last year, we've all had time to listen a little bit more, and it has been a little bit quieter. We have had chance to listen to the birds, not have so many cars going by. Perhaps not listening to as much television and radio, but perhaps we have. Can you spend 2 minutes today just listening with everything switched off? And then perhaps you could write down or draw a picture of what you heard. I went out into the garden this morning and I listened. What did I hear? I heard the wind in the trees. I heard the birds singing. I heard a car go by, but I just listened, and it was lovely and peaceful until one of my dogs barked and broke that special peace. But it gives us chance to have a nice, thoughtful time thinking. And perhaps we will hear God talking to us, like he did to Samuel. So I want us now just to be quiet for a second and we'll say a prayer together. Dear God, thank you for the story of Samuel and what it teaches us about listening. Thank you for our ears so we can hear. Help us to use our ears wisely and listen carefully when others are talking. Help us to listen well to each other in school and at home this week. So can you all go and do that? Can you just spend a few minutes listening to see if you hear anything you weren't expecting? But can you also spend some time listening to your mum, your dad, or your teachers so that you do things as you are asked to do, just like Samuel did? So it's been lovely doing our collective worship this morning, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.